have made this event possible, and all of you. So give yourself a big round of applause for starting here at 9 o'clock. I'm very excited. 5th annual every year. This gets a little bigger. We have more support. And for all of us who love Prince William Sound, it's just a wonderful start of the year. I'd like to introduce David Borg, the Harbor Master of City of Whittier, to welcome us to Whittier.
Good morning. What a great crowd. Glad to see everybody here. I just want to take a couple of minutes and let you know that Jim Hunt, city manager, couldn't be here today. He's in DC doing his politicking so we can move the city forward with some projects that we've got working on. And the only way to do that is actually get some face time in DC. So he asked me to come speak. I just want to welcome you all here today. And I like your resilience, perseverance, tenacity theme. I think that's very fitting, especially for this time of year. We're all digging out of an extremely long winter. I was waiting for snow this morning. I tell you, it's been insane. One of the things we're doing right now is we're working on getting our fishnet pens in place off of Luyang, so we can scent some fish. And that was supposed to happen last week, and I went out to the net pen to dig it out of snow, and it's about this high. So we're putting that off by a week. But, you know, again, it's all about the resilience, perseverance, and the tenacity of what we do in Prince William Sound and in the city of Whittier. So welcome, have a great conference. And I think I'm going to come back around 2-ish and talk to you about some of the things that are happening in Whittier. So have a great conference. Thank you.
Thanks, Dave. Yeah, talk about digging out boats and the snow. And yeah, it's been a winter of tenacity and perseverance, and here we are. And I think this today's theme, this conference's theme, will sort of reflect the long way we've come in Whittier and Prince William Sound over really 5,000 years. And we'll get to that in a minute. A few other announcements. Bathrooms, there's one in the lobby and there's one in the back. I believe there's also a couple downstairs also. If you're on Zoom and you have questions, please drop your questions in the chat. And we'll be answering those at the end of each session. Next up, we're going to have our Willow, Hetrick, and Allison. If you're here, come on up. Willow and Ali are on our board, so among things. So thank you for that work. The Chugach Regional Resource Commission is a natural resource entity for Chugach region. They're going to give us a brief overview of the organization, the tribes of Prince William Sound, and also start our conversations today about land and the heritage and amazing history of people in this area. Thank you.
Hi, good morning. I'm Willow Hetrick, Executive Director of Chugach Regional Resources Commission. Like Paul said, I'm on the board of the Stewardship Foundation, which is a great honor, and I'll let Ali introduce herself.
Good morning, I'm Allison. I'm a research scientist at Chugach Regional Resources Commission.
And Allison is on loan to Chugach Regional Resources Commission from the Chugach Alaska Corporation Apprenticeship Program, which I just learned more about this morning on the drive from Anchorage. But it's a really great program where the corporation gives nonprofits and tribes employees to work for them, and they pay for it, which is even better for a nonprofit. So we're lucky to have Allison, and she's been so great. She's going to come on full-time staff in August. Okay, next slide, please. We're going to give you a little quick overview of our organization. We were formed in 1984 and then incorporated officially as a nonprofit organization in 1990 with the IRS. The 7 tribes of Lower Cook Inlet, Prince William Sound, and Resurrection Bay in the Copper River Delta formed our organization in an effort to manage their natural resources collectively as a region. I think there was a lot of during a trying time, right? The Exxon Valdez oil spill, and they wanted to come together to work together rather than in separation. And we operate the Alludic Pride Marine Institute in Seward. It's a 10,000 square foot facility, which we're going to talk a little about later. So our tribes are in Prince William Sound, the native village of Eak, the Twardock IRA Council, and the Chugach IRA Council, but we also serve Port Graham and Nanwalek in Lower Cook Inlet, and Chugach Native Tribe in Resurrection Bay, and then the Valdez Native Tribe in Valdez. As you know, most of these communities are very remote, especially our Prince William Sound communities. They're only accessible by air, the Marine Highway, which is seasonal, and then small vessels. It's really exciting to serve this region. Oh, next slide, please. Yeah, perfect. Here's a nice map of just the extent of area that we serve, which is pretty similar to the Chugach National Forest. Actually, it's a little bit bigger. And we have a small team that I'll get into a little bit later, but it's very exciting to be able to serve these communities in the capacity that we do. We always wish we could do more, and I think our communities always wish that we could do more, but collectively we all do the best that we can, and we try to focus on regional issues like mariculture, ocean monitoring, and we're going to get into those a little bit later. But first, I'm going to let Allie read this land acknowledgement. It's one of the first things that she did for us through her apprenticeship program, and start off our day just remembering who was here before us so that we can move forward and honor their living legacy.
We would like to first acknowledge the land that we occupy for our Anchorage headquarters as the traditional lands of the Dena'ina Athabascans. The Dena'ina have been stewards of this land for thousands of years, and we would like to give recognition and show our appreciation to them, their land, and their continued stewardship. We would also like to acknowledge the space and land we utilize for our Marine Institute in Seward and the land of our tribes as the traditional region of the Chugach people of Alaska. The Chugach people encompass the Sugpiaq, which translates to like a real person, Alludic, and Eak, who have lived and continue to live off the coastal lands and waters of the Gulf of Alaska, Prince William Sound, Lower Cook Inlet, and Resurrection Bay for thousands of years. We want to acknowledge our land and water, which brings us life and culture, and our tribes who maintain our relationship with the land. These include Chugach, Eak, Nanwalek, Nuchik, Port Graham, Chugach, Twardock, and Valdez. The purpose of this statement is for acknowledgement, appreciation, and respect for our lands, waters, and people.
Okay, great. Thanks, Allie. How are we doing on time, Paul? Good. Okay. Next slide, please. As a courtesy to our chairman, who can't be here today because he lives in Port Graham and that would take him 3 days to get here, we always read a statement when he can't be here. And shown in this picture is a portion of our board of directors, which is one tribally elected official from every single one of our communities. Combined, and this is from Patrick Norman. As chairman of the board of Chugach Regional Resources Commission, I speak for my tribe, as well as others in Prince William Sound and Lower Cook Inlet, that we say we are thrilled to have the opportunity to share a part of our culture with you today. For our communities, natural resources are a gift. Traditional foods in our traditional homelands restore physical health and are central to the cultural and spiritual traditions of our people. Healthy and productive people are the cornerstone of our healthy communities. And the intrinsic value of harvesting and consuming local food in traditional ways cannot be overstated. A local statement is, when the tide is out, the table is set. Koyana. So that message was from Pat. And he always talks about food because it really has driven everything that our organization has done since 1984, because food just drives everything for our communities. It really is their cultural continuity. And that's what we work towards every single day, to be sure that what we Westerners determine as natural resources is actually food to people in Prince William Sound and Lower Cook Inlet. Next slide. So I talked a little bit about our staff. We now have almost 25 people. This is just a portion of them. They are split between our villages, Anchorage, and then our facility in Seward, which houses the most employees at the moment. We're going to get into quickly some of our programs and then spend a little bit more time on our program that we're partnered with the Stewardship Foundation, and kind of a call to action if anybody wants to get involved with that program. Next slide, please, gentlemen. Thanks. Our climate change program, which is going to be one of the tabled vendors today, has been in a full-blown, fully staffed program since 2016. And we are working with all of our tribes individually and then collectively as a climate cohort to prepare them for the impacts related to climate change. And that's been through a lot of different planning, on the ground surveys, household consumption surveys. And we're happy to talk more about any of these. If you want to stop me now or wait for questions later, happy to do whatever works for the group. We also have a lands and habitat program, which, which is mostly our tribal conservation district, which I'll get into. Actually, we can just go to the next slide, show you a map of our tribal conservation district. These are USDA programs, and the tribal conservation district that you see on a map is a huge area. They're non-regulatory districts. It just allows tribes within that district to access USDA funding with less competition, which is really important for our communities. And currently, that program is fully staffed with a special projects coordinator who is a Native Village of Eyak tribal member, and we're very excited to have her on board. Next slide, please. We have a tribal fish and wildlife department. Thanks. And they do so many things, but it's mostly subsistence advocacy in the regulatory realm. I mean, the Board of Game, the Board of Fish, the North Pacific Fisheries Management Council, Indigenous Peoples Council on Marine Mammals. I mean, there's at least 10 regulatory agencies that manage harvesting fish and wildlife in Alaska. And regulations are always changing, and not always for the better, and not always for the benefit of tribal members. And that regulatory advocacy team is continually keeping up on all of that. It is multiple people's full-time job. On top of that, they also do wildlife surveys, vegetation and habitat surveys. Those are in partnership or by ourselves. It just depends. But we've been working with Fish and Game. We also operate the Nanwalek Salmon Enhancement Weir program, which is it's a weir in Nanwalek, and it counts the fish that return to the English Bay Lake system, which sets the subsistence harvest level for all of Lower Cook Inlet. So some pretty important pieces that we work with our tribes together on. Next slide. We have a marine mammal program in conjunction with our tribal fish and wildlife program. And this program in particular is to advocate for the use of marine mammals in a sustainable way. A lot of these species are not endangered, but protected, and they're cute, and non-consumptive users really love them, but there is consumptive use in our region. Unfortunately, consumptive use, as interpreted by the Marine Mammal Protection Act, is set by blood quantum of Native Alaskan. And you have to have a certain blood quantum to be in order to harvest marine mammals, which is something that our region has expressed concern with, because over 60% of our coastal communities are less than a quarter blood quantum. And talking about blood quantum is really infuriating. So we're doing everything that we can every day to try to make sure that, our people are able to continue their cultural practices in a sustainable manner. That involves coordinating with National Marine Fisheries and U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service to make sure that population counts are updated, et cetera. Okay, next slide. We actually just started a complete education and outreach program. This is with funding from the Exxon Valdez Oil Spill Trustee Council to the Alaska Sea Life Center, and then to us as part of what is called the Coral Network. And it's a Coral Network does a lot of things, which is inherent with any grant program, but the core premise is to translate Exxon Valdez oil spill science to community members, and just to the not people without a scientific background. I don't want to say normal people, but that's what was coming to my brain. So excuse me for that. Next slide, please. Thanks to the Coral Network and this lovely, it's very hard to see, but the Alludek Museum, the Alaska Sea Life Center, Sea Grant, Prince William Sound Science Center, and the Alaska Coastal Studies Program, we were able to hire a full-time education and outreach coordinator. And next slide. She has started an internship program. She has been working on education and outreach materials to try to enhance traditional stories and keep them alive for the youth, doing a really great job. Okay, next slide. Next, we'll just quickly talk about our Alludek Pride Marine Institute in Seward. And you can see Allison in the picture there. That's where she's going to be working starting in August. We're very excited about that. Next slide. Like I said, this is a 10,000 square foot facility. It was finished in 1992. It was built with criminal settlement money from the Exxon Valdez oil spill that was given to the state of Alaska. The state of Alaska built the hatchery, handed it over instantly to the city of Seward, and they've been the owner ever since. It's the state's only shellfish hatchery and mariculture technical center, and we've been operating it since 1994. Before that, the Chugach Native tribe was operating the facility with our help. Here's a quick shot of the inside of the facilities, kind of what it looks like when you're raising oysters and clams. And if you go to the next slide, we have a full-blown ocean acidification monitoring program for our region, a harmful algal bloom and paralytic shellfish poisoning testing program, which I'll come back to in a second, a water quality program. We're also setting up the capacity to have an eDNA program. We are a mariculture technical center. That's how we started. And we work on intertidal species restoration. That doesn't always equal mariculture in the Western term, because a lot of this, well, all of the species that we raise are animals that our tribal members eat, which aren't always commercially either viable or sought after. So post Exxon Valdez and post earthquake is where all of our work has happened, and it is rehabilitating the beaches that are right in front of our communities for a multitude of different shellfish species. So back to harmful algal bloom and PSP testing, we've been working with the Prince William Sound Stewardship Foundation to collect mussel testing, and I think that Charla can talk a little bit more about that. We test the muscle tissues of the animals that you guys send to us, and for paralytic shellfish poisoning. This is just a quick wrap up of, again, why we're here, why we do what we do. And last slide, please. That's everything. It's just important that, you know, we are guided by our tribes. We don't do anything without their permission. And that's what really drives us every single day. So thanks for having us. And questions? Yeah. Thank you.